Hello, Mishpachah. My name is Teacher Tina, and I am here to discuss Purim, but from a different perspective. No, it is not one of the three commanded feasts that we must celebrate, but it is a cultural holiday or a cultural festival that is very important to us Israelites and to those who are grafted into the tree. Amalek, whether we want to admit it or not, lives inside of us. So it's very important to know this spirit. So we're going to give you three reasons as to why you should celebrate this cultural holiday. One reason why I believe that we should really celebrate this great cultural holiday is to remember Amalek. That's right. He is the darkness. We need to remember the darkness that is always trying to overtake us. In Deuteronomy chapter 25, verses 17 through 19, it reads, "Remember what Amalek did unto you by the way, when you were come forth out of Egypt, how he met you by the way and smote the hindmost part of you, even all that were feeble behind you. When you were faint and weary, he feared not Elohim. Therefore it shall be when Yahuwah, your Elohim, have given you rest from all your enemies round about in the land which Yahuwah your Elohim gives you for an inheritance to possess it, that you shall blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. You shall not forget it." And of course, as usual, we did not blot out the remembrance of Amalek. Okay, so do your due diligence and find out who was in charge of doing that and what happened. So we see that the darkness is still here, creeping upon us, lurking with us. In Exodus 17, verse 16, we read, "For he said, because Yahuwah hath sworn that Yahuwah will have war with Amalek from generation to generation." So we see that Yahuwah is going to war with Amalek perpetually. And guess what? We carry his name, so we are his representation in the earth, and we are going to war with Amalek from generation to generation because we didn't do what Yah said from the beginning. That's just the way it goes. So let's take a look at the Hebrew word for darkness. Choshek is the Hebrew word for darkness, and it is composed of the Hebrew letters Chet, Shin, and Kaf. Okay, so we are going to look at the ancient Hebrew to find out what it means. So we got the Chet, which is the picture of a fence or a wall, meaning to keep in or to keep out. Okay, it's a protection. We have the Hebrew letter Shin, which is the picture of a teeth used to eat, press, sharp. It destroys. Kaf, the picture of a hand, which can mean to open or to close, right? So when we put these Hebrew thoughts together, we see that darkness is a place that crushes, presses down, and it destroys those that enter into it. Because with the cough and the negative side of your hand being open, it can also be closed to forbid something from escaping or to forbid something from entering, right? So this darkness does not allow us to enter into any shalom. It does not allow Torah to enter, okay? So this is the number one reason that we need to remember Purim, because as I've said before, we're leaving the season of the witch and we're entering into divine judgment, right? So we can see that Amalek is on our tail because we just read in Exodus that Yah is going to war with Amalek from generation to generation, because when we were trying to leave Egypt, Guess who was on our tail? Amalek, the spirit of Amalek, the spirit of Esau. So we have got to pay attention to this darkness. The number two reason, okay? So because we have Esau and his spirit running around through the spirit of Amalek, this really means that that spirit is inside of us, okay? Just like Rivka or Rebecca, she had two nations warring inside of her. It is with us. We have our fleshly part of us that wars with the spirit, our lusts, our appetites, our thirst, our desires are warring with the born again Ruach that is supposed to dwell within us, that is supposed to lead and guide us into truth. So we have those two types of nations, if you will, warring inside of us. Okay, so Amalek, his name means dweller in the valley, right? So when you study Amalek and what he did at Rephidim, I believe it is, that whole story was about having no faith, the lowest expectations, dwelling in the lowest place, the lowest thoughts, right? So this no faith having spirit, okay, sometimes tries to overtake us, right? So when we are having little to no faith in Yah, guess what spirit that is? That is the dweller of the valley spirit, or the Amalek spirit that is trying to overtake us. Exodus 17, 9 through 11. Read that in your private time, okay? Moshe prevailed as long as the priests, Aaron, and her authority leader from Yehuda, when they held up Moshe's arms, the army of Israel prevailed, okay? And when his arms wasn't raised, what happened? The Amalekites, they prevailed. Read the story, read it for yourself. So when we look at that in a spiritual aspect, we see the messianic image, okay, of Moshe, which represents the future messianic coming king, Yahusha. We see him in power as they are raising up the messianic image, the salvation of Yah. Moses' hands, it represents the power of Torah. And as long as they were holding up salvation and the power of Torah, they prevailed. But when they could not hold up salvation and the power of Torah, the Amalekites prevailed. Remember, the Amalekites, they are darkness and they represent no faith, okay? And let's talk about because I know that, there's not a lot of information about him, but the root word of his name is Hara, and that means to be a central hub of heat. Okay, this fire cleanses, and it also means to be a noble man. So we also got the fire cleansing power, of Yahuwah, his spirit, being raised up by on the other side of Moshe. So that story is just fascinating. So that's the second reason why I believe we should keep or celebrate Purim. The third reason that I believe we should keep Purim is because when you are getting weak and tired, when you're thirsty and you're hungry for Torah and there is something blocking you, know that it is the spirit of Amalek. And haven't you noticed that a lot of Israelites have been complaining about being tired and worn out? This is just so good. The word of Yah is so good. And now I'm like, oh, this is another weapon in my arsenal against the enemy, as a prophetic intercessor, understanding Torah, now you can go in and you can pray effectively. Oh my goodness, this is so good. So, all of us that have been experiencing this tiredness, it is because, whether we're leaving the physical Egypt or we're leaving a physical or spiritual bondage, in our life, leaving one season of bondage, entering into freedom. Every time you leave a season, you know, guess who on the heels trying to pull you back in the season to make you stay in that season? Amalek. Come on. Come on. This is good to me. I don't know about y'all, but this is good to me. So I am excited about Purim, and I know that it is not a mandatory feast, but I am going to pray tomorrow because I will be celebrating Purim tomorrow. I'm going to pray. I'm going to revisit the information that I studied. I'm going to restudy the book of Esther, and I am going to have myself a good time. I hope that bit of information has helped you to really see the spirit of Amalek. And we need to teach this to our future generations. That's why it's very important to commemorate this cultural holiday. All right, until the next video.